And my mother is still alive because she cannot be anything but alive, because she is infinite consciousness that cannot be destroyed. Now, this is a symbolic picture. There are now endless accounts all over the world of people who've had what we call out-of-body experiences, where they leave the body when the body physically dies, and they're looking down on their body, and when they're revived, they can tell the doctors and the nurses what they were doing and saying when they were apparently dead. They also talk about going through a tunnel and seeing people who've gone before. Now, what is another common theme of near-death experiences is people say when they've left the body and they are looking and perceiving this world from another perspective, they have massively expanded consciousness, so much so that they can perceive their entire physical lifetime in almost one thought. We're perceiving it in a series of thoughts going through what we call time. They're just perceiving it all in one thought, something that they couldn't even conceive doing when they were in the physical body. And what this physical body does is it limits the vision and perspective of consciousness. And we start to identify who we are with this physical world and with this physical body. Now, if you control the information that this level of us is implanted with from cradle to grave, then if consciousness starts to identify with the physical body as who it is, and disconnects its perception of being interdimensional and infinite, then it's going to get its information to get a fix on who it is and what's happening in the world through this information. It's not going to get it from out here through intuition, through knowing.
Required to free him from the chains of limitation, whether of physical or psychological origin.
It's not going to get it from out here through intuition, through knowing. It's going to get it from here. So if they can control that, they are literally programming a computer to see the world in the way that they want us to see it. And that's what they've done. The idea is to keep us in the five-sense reality, because they control that. And that's holding us in the level of the computer. This is a symbol of this tunnel that near-death experiences constantly talk about, where they're moving from this reality into another reality beyond human sight. Because we think, and I say we, I mean most people, we think that when we look through our eyes, we are seeing what exists in the space we are looking at. In fact, we are seeing through physical sight an infinitesimal fraction of what exists in this space. We're seeing a tiny frequency range accessible by five-sense sight. Now, according to mainstream scientific projections of what exists as mass and matter in this one universe, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what is projected to exist in this universe. 0.005%, the electromagnetic spectrum. Human sight can perceive a fraction of that 0.005%. One of the other fantastically effective ways that we're controlled and manipulated is to get us to perceive that we are seeing what exists when we look through our eyes, when we're seeing an infinitesimal fraction. In the space that I'm occupying now are all the radio and television stations broadcasting to London. I can't see them, they can't see each other, because they're on different frequencies, different wavelengths. And therefore, they don't interfere with us, and they don't interfere with each other unless they're really close on the frequency dial. So in the space that I am occupying now, we all are, is infinity. An infinity of worlds and dimensions of existence and what we call life, all existing here. And when I talk about other dimensional entities, for instance, I can't go into this in detail today because it's running out of time, but this, because I want to concentrate on this, which is, I think, is most important. But When I talk about other dimensional entities manipulating this world through these Illuminati bloodlines who have a DNA that resonates, a sympathetic resonance with these entities, therefore they can control these particular bloodlines much more effectively. That's why you put the bloodline into power, you're putting the other dimensional entity into power that is controlling that apparently human person's mental, emotional, and physical traits and stuff. What is happening is that these entities are operating on frequencies beyond human sight, which ain't saying much given the amount we can access. And so when people say, oh, I saw this reptilian entity, and this reptilian man, it just appeared before my eyes and then disappeared. People go, what you on? What you on? What's happened is, it hasn't appeared and disappeared. It's changed its frequency so that it's entered the frequency of 5 sense sight. Oh, did you see that? It's changed the frequency. It's gone out of the frequency of 5 sense sight. It disappeared, mate. When people say, I saw this UFO, and it disappeared in front of my eyes. Well, no, it hasn't disappeared. It's left the frequency range that your eyes can access. This is why some people will have a psychic ability to go further into the sight frequency range, and they'll see a ghost, or what they call a ghost, and someone else will say, I can't see a thing, mate. It's all about what you're tuning into and what you're not. Radio signals, radio stations symbolically. So, we are living in 5 sense reality in a tiny, tiny frequency range. Infinity lies beyond it. What the Illuminati want us to do is keep that as our focus of what is and real and all the rest of it, and forget about all that stuff, because once you go there, this looks very bloody different. And you start to see through the manipulation and the lies and the claptrap. And people say, I saw it with my own eyes. Well, no, you didn't actually. You saw it with your brain. All the 5 senses do is they pass signals, electrical, electrochemical signals, to the brain, which then interprets them to form a apparently 3-dimensional holographic reality in the brain. We don't feel pain where we get the smack. We feel the pain when the brain has interpreted the message from the smack into pain. And it's the same with all the senses. We are constructing our reality in terms of what appears to be out here is actually in here. And as psychological research and other research has shown, we construct that reality from all this information that we receive on the basis of what we believe. On a simple example of that, I've seen television programs where they put 2 people together who have a really, really preconceived idea about each other. Because this world's controlled by preconceived ideas, beliefs, imposed beliefs, most of them. And what they do is they get them to talk to each other. They film it, then they take the people apart, and they ask them what the other person said and how they said it. And they tell them. They then play the original chat back, and these 2 people are shocked. Because when they look at it again, what the person said, and especially how they said it, was completely different to how they perceived it. Why? Because research has shown, psychological research and all this stuff that they do in these laboratories with, testing mental and emotional reactions, that we edit up to and sometimes 50% of the information we receive to make it fit our perceived reality. We put things in that aren't there. We take things out that are there to make it fit the reality. So when someone you've got a preconceived idea about, I don't like you, when they say something, you hear it in a way that underpins the belief that you don't like them and they're not very nice. Now, this is happening all the time. And so he who can implant preconceived belief in situations and what have you will then create the editing process within us that leads to us creating or perceiving the reality that the implanted belief is creating. We think we're creating our own reality, and we are through the process, but what we're doing overwhelmingly is accepting externally implanted beliefs, which then create our reality. Someone else is creating our reality for us. So we see with our brain even, not our eyes. The eyes are only part of the process. Everything happening in our heads. And if you know that, and the mass of the population don't, then that is how a few can control the many.
When we speed up the course of molecules, we get energy. And since we are all basically just a mass of molecules, what does our brain send out to all the other parts of the body?